Hello, my name is Bethan. I'm in a grassland on the edge of Dartmoor in November. So first of all, what is grassland? It's an ecosystem dominated by grass and tends to be maintained by grazing cutting or in some countries frequent fires. In the UK, grassland can be very low in diversity, like this field of ryegrass, which has probably had herbicide and fertiliser prior to seeding, or this chalk grassland, which is more or less natural, receives no chemicals and can have more than 40 plant species per square metre. Your playing field was probably sown with ryegrass, other grass species and clover. Clover, like all legumes, fixes nitrogen from the air, which fertilises the grasses. The field will also contain species that have come from other areas by seed dispersal, for example, daisy, dandelion, ribwort plantain and creeping buttercup. The distribution and abundance of this species is determined by their adaptations and the environment. Many grassland species grow in a rosette shape with the leaves in an overlapping spiral which lies flat on the soil and can withstand trampling. The growing point of the plant, known as the apical meristem, is tucked safely into the spiral where it survives the effects of cutting and trampling. One species particularly adapted to soil compaction is broad-leaved plantain, which has tough elastic leaves resistant to trampling and soft fibrous roots that can take hold in hard, shallow soils. Thistles are also highly tolerant of compaction, but they use a different strategy. This thick, sturdy taproot can penetrate the dense, compacted soil. The plants are also able to increase the size of the pore spaces in the root tissue to facilitate the gaseous exchange in the compressed, air-starved soil. It's nice and sunny today, but a major challenge normally for grassland species in the southwest is waterlogging. You can see that creeping buttercup dominates the waterlogged corner of this field, but is almost absent on the well-drained bank. It can even survive being underwater in a state of oxygen starvation for long periods of time, like in this field drain. When the plant becomes submerged, cells in the cortex, which is part of the root tissue, die off, an example of what is called programmed cell death. This produces a special spongy tissue called aerenchyma full of air spaces. Creeping buttercup can also maintain low levels of photosynthesis when it's submerged, producing oxygen for respiration. Another species found in waterlogged grassland is soft thrush, whose stem pith is full of permanent star-shaped aerenchyma. So that's waterlogging. What about shade? If you saw my last video, you'll remember I took a transect from the trunk of a beech tree to open grassland to investigate the impact of shade on species abundance. Well, this is what I found out. Ground ivy, ivy and wood avens were abundant in the shade, whereas grass and clover dominated in the light. Many shade-tolerant species have a large leaf area to mass ratio. In other words, broad, thin leaves to help light reach the chloroplasts for photosynthesis. The leaves also tend to be dark in colour due to a high concentration of chloroplasts per area, which also compensates for the light limitations. Interestingly, many species will produce comparatively smaller, thicker leaves in a well-lit location compared to a shady one. And you can study this by randomly sampling leaves in areas with different light intensities and measuring their length. Nettle is a good species to use for this. This ability, where a species can alter its behaviour or structure in response to environment, is called plasticity.